And we are coming on the air with the countdown to splashdown. In just about 3 hours, the Artemis II crew will return to the Earth. They're ready to touch down just off the coast of California. But strap in, because the re-entry is the most risky part of the mission. Our team will explain why in a bit. Also new tonight, how President Trump's war with Iran has raised all sorts of prices. A new report shows inflation tripled. We're live in the region with his new threats ahead of those key peace talks tomorrow. Then breaking in the Bay Area, police say they've arrested a person who threw a Molotov cocktail into the home of OpenAI founder Sam Altman. New details just in from the company tonight. Plus, why a Texas family says an energy drink is to blame for their teenage daughter's death. The new lawsuit that lays out their case for accountability. And in our breakdown, the euphoric return of a show called TV's most toxic drama, how off-screen issues have put a black mark on Euphoria's last season. That's later in the show. Hey there, I'm Ryan Nobles. I'm in for Hallie, and we are starting tonight with the most risky moments for the Artemis II astronauts. This is a live look at the Orion spacecraft, and in about 3 hours, it's set to splash down off the coast of Southern California, bringing a dramatic end to a historic mission that sent them to the far side of the moon, further than any other humans ever traveled in space. Just check out some of the stunning photographs they beamed back to Earth. This sets up a future mission that could see humans land on the moon again, and then possibly even go to Mars. But re-entering the Earth's atmosphere tonight is not going to be a cakewalk for those 4 astronauts. You're seeing them there making their final preps. This moment is being called the most dangerous part of the mission. The crew will hit Earth's atmosphere at 24,000 miles per hour. The heat around the spacecraft climbing to 5,000 degrees. To put that in perspective, that's about half the temperature of the surface of the sun. And that's where the big concern is. The heat shield on this spacecraft must hold up to keep these astronauts safe, but it's already known to have design flaws. So it will be a nail-biting 13-minute re-entry process. We've got team coverage for you tonight. Gotti Schwartz is in all his space geek glory. This is his Super Bowl. And, of course, Tom Costello's been following this journey from the very beginning. Tom, we've got to start with you. We've heard a lot about the making of this heat shield and whether or not it can withstand re-entry. It's posed big issues for NASA before. What's our biggest concern going into this splashdown tonight?
The biggest concern is, will it show the same kind of scarring and cracking that we saw on the Artemis I heat shield? A reminder, Artemis I was an uncrewed mission, in other words, unmanned, uncrewed mission. And when they came back, they looked at the heat shield and they saw far worse burns and scarring than they expected. It is that tile is made by a particular substance that is supposed to defuse the heat and the gases inside it. There's the scarring right there. That's Artemis I on the left and the scarring on the shield. So because of that, they decided, how do we fix this? They'd already ordered up and had already put the shield on the Orion spaceship for this mission. So they couldn't take it off necessarily. So they decided instead is what they would do is change the reentry angle today. You may hear them talk about an angle of attack. Same thing, the reentry angle, and that will reduce the amount of time in extreme heat. But it also means as they are interfacing with the plasma, that's going to disrupt the communication. In fact, they're going to go into blackout for 6 minutes. 6 minutes when they are at 400,000 feet, plunging to Earth at nearly 25,000 miles per hour. They will lose all radio comms. They expect that, but you can imagine that will be a moment or moments of high stress and anxiety for mission control and for the families watching and hoping that this all goes well. If it all goes well, we have every reason to believe it will. They will come out, and then at about 22,000 feet, suddenly the parachutes will start deploying, and they will slow from that 25,000 miles per hour down to ultimately about a 19-mile-per-hour splashdown in the Pacific off the coast of San Diego. But make no mistake about it, it is all about that heat shield, all about reentry, all about holding them safe inside.
And Tom, remind us again, how long will we not be able to communicate with the ship as it's coming in?
Yeah, total time 6 minutes. And let me just double check one thing for you. At 24 seconds into reentry, by the way, they call it the reentry interface. because, you know, nothing in NASA has to have an easy term. It's the reentry interface. So 24 seconds into that, once they hit that 400,000-foot level, 24 seconds later, they go to radio blackout for 6 minutes.
Right. That will be an agonizing 6 minutes, I think, for the entire world. So, Gotti, let's go to you. Let's assume everything is going to go to plan. What happens next? What's the splashdown going to be like? And how quickly will we see the astronauts?
Yeah, well, it will go according to plan. This is something that NASA has done time and time again. The last time, Artemis I, the angle of attack they used that time was the outlier. They are reverting back to kind of a steeper angle of attack. So they have done this type of approach before. And then once they splash down, they're going to start, you know, bobbing up and down in the ocean. It's the first time they're going to remember what gravity on Earth feels like after 10 days of being weightless, flying like superhumans up there in zero gravity. And then if for some reason they are upside down, they have this little flotation, kind of these balls on top of the capsule that they can inflate, that'll pop them back up. Then they're going to start their internal checklist inside. And the parachutes are usually automatically cut away so they don't get tangled. Then the recovery team starts heading in these small boats. They swarm them. They lasso them with this stabilizing collar. Then they set up this inflatable raft that they call the front porch. They pop open the hatch. All 4 astronauts get out on this floating front porch, and then I think they're going to be hoisted up by some Seahawk helicopters in like this hero's welcome and flown to the Navy's USS Mertha, where there's going to be some medical evaluations. They're going to be resting up, and they'll get a chance to eat some real Earth food.
Yeah, right. It's going to happen in about 3 hours. We haven't had a moment like this in the United States in some time. So a lot of people are anxious and excited about it. Tom Costello and Gotti Schwartz, thank you both. We'll talk more next hour as we get closer to re-entry. Be sure to tune in tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern to watch live coverage of the Artemis II Crew splashdown right here on NBC and NBC News Now. Well, today markets dipped slightly after a new report showed inflation tripling because of the Iran war. Those numbers mostly driven by gas prices. They surged 21% in March alone. Now, for context, that's the highest one-month uptick since the Vietnam War. And if you're heading to the pump today, my condolences, the average national gas price is a whopping $4.15. But even with this fragile ceasefire, only 2 ships crossed the crucial Strait of Hormuz today. Ahead of some critical peace talks taking place in Pakistan this weekend, you can see the vice president making his way there to help represent the U.S. And while they're holding out hope for a positive outcome, the president says the military is ready if the talks fall through, telling the New York Post, and I'm quoting here, "We're loading up the ships." Let's bring in Matt Bradley. He's standing by for us in Tel Aviv. So, Matt, let's start with these high-stakes talks because both sides have issued new threats ahead of the meeting. Give us a reality check on where things stand. How fragile is this ceasefire?
I mean, extremely fragile. When we're talking about these negotiations, the idea behind them was that they were supposed to be negotiating towards a more permanent ceasefire, essentially extending this 2-week deadline that President Trump had promised on Tuesday night ahead of his own ultimatum. Now it looks as though the negotiations themselves and the ceasefire itself are very much in jeopardy. As you mentioned, we heard from Ghalibaf, Mohammed Ghalibaf. He is the head, he's the Speaker of Iran's parliament, and he is now the head of the delegation that just arrived in Pakistan from the Iranian side. Now, what he was talking about in a tweet today, he mentioned 2 rules, 2 basically goals that the Iranians have that they say need to be met before these negotiations even start. Worth noting, these negotiations are supposed to begin tomorrow. And these 2 goals are very unlikely. One of them is that Israel would stop fighting north of its border in Lebanon against Hezbollah. They have been just bombing in enormous amounts all over the country, killing really thousands of people and setting off hundreds of thousands in a massive internally displaced crisis there. Now, the other objective that the Iranians say they need is for all of their assets that are now abroad to be unfrozen so that they have access to them. Those are 2 very, very big demands ahead of a high-stakes negotiation to avert a continued war. So, to put it mildly, things are not looking good.
Yeah. You mentioned Lebanon, and it really has become a sticking point in all of this. We know, you mentioned the strikes that have launched there. Does it feel as though things have slowed down at all? Have they increased the strikes since this ceasefire? Has it just been what it's been from the very beginning? Give us a sense of what's on the ground there.
Yeah, it's a very good question. And certainly things have slowed down in terms of Israel's offensive in Lebanon against Hezbollah, targeting all of these areas. Many civilians have been killed. But they've only really slowed down in the sense that when we saw those initial strikes on Tuesday evening going into Wednesday, around the time that we saw the announcement of that ceasefire, that was the largest, most powerful set of strikes that Israel has launched against Lebanon in generations. So we were bound to see some sort of decrease in the firepower that Israel has been using. What it is down to now is not nearly what the Iranians mean when they say that they want the fighting with Israel to stop in Lebanon. And Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, has said that he wants it both ways, quite explicitly. They want to continue negotiating. They want to be part of these, basically part of this ceasefire. They're not playing a direct role in the negotiations. They've reached out to the Lebanese government, distinct from Hezbollah, and say they're open to negotiations. But at the same time, they're not going to be able to rein in Hezbollah anytime soon because the Lebanese government just isn't that powerful.
Okay, Matt Bradley on the ground for us in Tel Aviv. Matt, thanks for that. A dramatic turn in the disappearance of an American woman in the Bahamas. An attorney for the woman's husband now says the investigation is focused on the possibility that he may have caused some sort of harm that resulted in her death. Brian Hooker's attorney spoke to our own Jesse Kirsch immediately after his hours-long interview with authorities. Take a listen.
Let's break down the legalese of that.
Right.
That could mean any number of things. That's not pointing to one specific potential charge.
I think they're looking more along the line of murder. But if you're looking for murder, you need to have the intent and you need to show the act that caused it. And so I'm still waiting to see where they can provide that sort of evidence.
Police in the Bahamas arrested Brian Hooker earlier this week in connection to his wife's disappearance. According to Hooker, he and his wife were boating together over the weekend when she fell overboard. Hooker says the waves that night had been rough. We should note that both of them are pretty experienced on the water. Brian and Lynette Hooker have been sailing for more than a decade, according to Lynette Hooker's daughter. Lynette Hooker's daughter also says the couple had a history of not getting along, especially when they drink. Hooker has denied any wrongdoing. Jesse Kirsch now, live for us in the Bahamas. So, Jesse, what happens here next? We heard your conversation with Hooker's attorney. Is there a sense of when he'll be charged, and could it be as serious as murder?
Well, it's still unclear even if he'll be charged, Ryan. We have repeatedly reached out to police for a comment on the information shared with us by that attorney earlier. We have not gotten a comment from police, so we don't have a good sense of where their investigation stands at this point. But what we're told by Brian Hooker's attorney is that he is being held behind bars right here at this police station. And that attorney says that police have about 2 more hours to either charge him or release him. There is also a third option. They could request an extension. And if that's granted, we're told that he likely, according to his attorney, would be held through the weekend. So any number of ways this could go right now, Ryan. We are waiting outside of this police precinct to see if Brian Hooker will emerge. We have constantly been in contact with his lawyer, and at this point seems to be status quo that he is still being held behind bars. Here's a little bit more of my conversation with his attorney earlier. When Brian Hooker hears that possibility being presented to him, what is his reaction to that?
Oh, he was pretty upset and emotional. At one point, he even broke down into tears. From a legal perspective, my opinion is that he should walk.
And that first exchange there being in reference to me asking what Brian Hooker was feeling when he's being asked about possibly being involved in causing harm to his wife, Ryan.
Okay, Jesse Kirsch, thank you for that. We appreciate it. We do have some breaking news. President Trump taking questions from reporters. This as he is leaving Washington for the weekend. Let's listen into what the president has to say.
What's your backup plan if there's no deal goes? You don't need a backup plan. We have the military is defeated. Their military is gone. They have, we've degraded just about everything. They have very few missiles. They have very little manufacturing capability. We've hit them hard. Our military is amazing, the job they've done.
Sorry, is this a one-and-done talk, or are you open to more talks after this, depending on what
I don't know. I can't tell you. I have to see what happens tomorrow. They're They've been talking for 47 years with other presidents, and we're not doing much talking. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, that was President Trump speaking as he leaves Joint Base Andrews, getting out of Washington for the weekend. Nothing incredibly notable about his remarks. So we're going to move on. We're learning that a person is under arrest now for allegedly throwing a Molotov cocktail at the home of OpenAI CEO. The company says the person also made threats outside the company's headquarters in San Francisco. Nobody was hurt, though. The San Francisco Police Department says charges are still pending and that the case is an open and active investigation. Altman has not publicly addressed the arrest. Camila Bernal joins us now to talk more about this story. Do we know anything about the damage that this caused, or if Altman was even home, Camila?
Hey, Ryan. So at this point, not a lot of details, but it does not appear that the damage was significant, especially because we heard from the San Francisco Fire Department saying that someone had already put this out by the time even firefighters got there. So it was essentially put out very quickly. We know this happened at around 4 in the morning, and there was this 20-year-old man who was there through this Molotov cocktail, and it landed near one of the front gates of the house. So he was not able to get into the home in any way. And then we know that he was able to escape. He fled on foot, and it's unclear exactly where he went, but authorities were able to get a good description of him. So officers were on the lookout for him, and about an hour later, at around 5 in the morning, this 20-year-old shows up to headquarters, to OpenAI headquarters in Mission Bay there in San Francisco, and that's when authorities quickly recognized him and arrested him. But before they were able to do that, this 20-year-old did make threats about burning down the building, the headquarters of OpenAI. And so it's unclear what he's going to be charged with, because last we asked SFPD, they do not have the charging information yet. And they say this is still an open investigation. They're still looking into all of this. So we are still waiting for a lot of the details here. But like you mentioned, Sam Altman did not comment specifically on all of this. Only the company did, saying essentially that thankfully everyone here is okay. Ryan.
All right. Camila Bernal, thanks for the update. New details tonight about a scary close call at LAX. A service truck apparently cut off a Frontier Airlines flight that was taxiing. Here's what happened inside the cockpit.
2 trucks just cut us off. We had to slam on the brakes not to hit. It happened so fast. Both of us were just like, holy shit. And we slammed on the brakes. I'm going to have to call the flight to make sure everybody's all right in the back. It was real close. Closest I've ever seen.
This took place on Wednesday night around 11:30. The FAA says it's still looking into the incident. It comes just weeks after that deadly collision at LaGuardia Airport in New York last month. 2 pilots died and dozens of passengers got hurt after an Air Canada plane that had just landed collided with a fire truck on the runway. Let's go right to Morgan Chesky. He is following this story for us. So, Morgan, an FAA spokesperson told NBC News that this actually happened in an area that's not under air traffic control supervision. How's that even possible?
Yeah, Ryan, good question there. We believe that to mean that this occurred in an area known as a taxiway, kind of leading to a runway. So this, of course, is under investigation by the FAA, but that's likely what they're referring to. But you can still hear the urgency in the pilot's voice when they describe how they slammed on the brakes as they were making their way towards the runway when these not one but 2 vehicles appeared to more or less kind of cut them off on this flight path that had 200 people on board. This was the red eye going from LAX to Atlanta. And again, particularly coming on the heels of that deadly incident that happened at LaGuardia, an incredibly close call there. This was a Frontier airline flight. They did release a very short statement that I'll share with you, just is a few words saying that they are aware of the incident. No injuries were reported to passengers or the crew. But it was just kind of a testament here to the unease, I think, that has permeated some of the aviation air as a result of these number of incidents that have played out. We had a chance to speak to Jeff Gazzetti. He is an aviation analyst for NBC News, former NTSB investigator here, Ryan. He said that while this is still under investigation, it's very clear that there was some sort of breakdown of communication, most importantly because when you are in that environment, the plane, the larger vehicle, very clearly has the right-of-way, and he says that's why he was surprised that even if someone had potentially cleared for these vehicles to be driving the place that they were, they should have been somewhat aware of the fact that they were intersecting the path of this Airbus that was making its way from that taxiway to the runway. And he actually gave a lot of credit to the location here, Ryan, because unlike what happened at LaGuardia, this was still at a relatively low speed area, which is fortunately likely one of the reasons no reports of any injuries on anyone in the vehicles or anyone on board that Airbus either here.
Okay,
Ryan?
Morgan Chesky, thank you for that. We appreciate it. The family of a teenage girl is suing the distributor of a popular energy drink because they say their daughter died from drinking too much of it. Larissa Nicole Rodriguez, you can see her here. She was a 17-year-old student headed for college when she died in October from what her family says was an enlarged heart caused by ingesting too much caffeine. According to the lawsuit, Rodriguez drank Alani Nu, an energy drink to give her a boost for school and sports, and because ads on social media claimed that they had health benefits. One can of Alani Nu has 200 milligrams of caffeine, but the FDA recommends that kids and teens have less than 100 milligrams of caffeine per day. We reached out to the drink distributor for comment, but we haven't heard back. Let's get to Emily Akeda on this. I have a teenage daughter who loves energy drinks, so this is obviously something that makes me very concerned.
Yeah, especially the fruity ones, the flavorful ones.
Right.
Yeah.
And they also, when we say the one drink is 200 milligrams, they often drink more than just one of them in a day.
Yeah.
What does accountability look like for this family? What are they looking for here?
Well, they are seeking more than $1 million in damages, but I think that the attorney says the family is really hoping to prevent this from happening to another family, another tragedy like this, another young person. And you look at someone like Larissa Rodriguez, you see her on your screen, 17 years old, cheerleader, involved, active, healthy. She didn't have, according to the attorney, any pre-existing heart conditions. And so not only was this a tragedy, but it also was a shock. It was very sudden. And they believe that it was the high levels of that caffeine that contributed to the fatal cardiac incident. And so in the lawsuit, it says that she wasn't made aware of risks for this go-to drink. The only cautionary language on the can, quote, not recommended for children, is printed in small, inconspicuous text that is easily overlooked. Here's more from the attorney when I talked to him today.
When every single drug that was tested, every alcohol test came back negative, and only caffeine was found in her system, we felt very strongly that there was something we needed to investigate. We are specifically going after them for failing to warn and failing to prevent innocent people that are like children, in this case, Larissa, from taking this drink, not knowing the risks.
So this wrongful death lawsuit is targeting specifically the distributor, but the attorney tells me that it very well could expand, and we could see a further defendants in this case.
And you touched on this a little bit, but the marketing of it has got to be a big part of it, right? I know my daughter loves the colorful cans. It does seem as though they are targeting this toward a younger audience, towards teenagers in particular. Are the companies saying about the potential dangers of marketing to young people?
Well, I think you look on social media and you will see these energy drinks everywhere. They've got fun colors, fun flavors. The distributor didn't respond to our request for comment, but Celsius, which owns Alani Nu, they are not a defendant in this case, but they said in part, saddened by this loss, and our thoughts are with the family. We take product safety seriously and believe consumers should have clear information about what they are drinking. Our products comply with applicable federal labeling requirements, and our policy is not to market or sample to anyone under 18. But in the background of all of this, surging popularity across all of the big energy drink names, Ryan.
As if we didn't have enough to worry about as parents of teenagers. But Emily Akeda, thanks for the update. We appreciate it. In just a bit, why the charity that Prince Harry set up in honor of his late mother is now suing him. We've got the court records. Plus, what a civil war between two chimpanzee tribes might tell us about humans. New details on the closest thing we're going to get to a royal wedding in the States, where Travis and Taylor will get hitched in the 5 things. But first, the HIV and AIDS charity that Prince Harry helped to create in honor of his late mother just sued him for defamation. Sente Ballet, which is based in South Africa, accuses him of designing a media campaign that led to, and I'm quoting here, an onslaught of cyberbullying directed at the charity and its leadership. Harry stepped down from his leadership post with the charity last year after a public fallout with the board's chair. A spokesperson for the prince tells Sky News that he, quote, categorically rejects these offensive and damaging claims. Let's bring in Valerie Castro. So what more are we learning about these allegations against the prince?
Yeah, Ryan, so this has all been brewing since last year when Harry first left the organization over that internal conflict with the chair of the board. And she accused him of trying to orchestrate a campaign of bullying to force her out of the organization. So this lawsuit is a result of that conflict and claims libel or slander, accusing Prince Harry of that for comments that were made during that conflict. And the lawsuit says this was all the result of an adverse media campaign. And the organization released its own statement saying, in part, false narratives circulated through the media about the charity and its leadership, attempts to undermine its relationships with staff, existing and prospective partners, and the forced diversion of leadership time and resources into managing a reputational crisis not of the charity's making. And the statement went on to say the charity seeks the court's intervention, protection, and restitution. Now, at the time of this big conflict, the Charity Commission for England and Wales also launched an independent investigation. It actually found that both parties were at fault here for allowing this conflict to go public, and that damaged the organization's reputation. But it also found that there was no evidence of widespread bullying. Still, this lawsuit was filed today, and there has been a response from Prince Harry through a spokesperson saying it is extraordinary that charitable funds are now being used to pursue legal action against the very people who built and supported the organization for nearly 2 decades, rather than being directed to the communities the charity was created to serve. So, Ryan, very complicated, still vague exactly what the details are, but certainly more to come.
All right, Valerie, thanks for unpacking that messy situation for us. We appreciate it. Let's get you over now to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Columbia graduate student Mahmoud Khalil is one step closer to deportation. An immigration board denied an appeal to dismiss his case. The Trump administration arrested Khalil after he helped lead pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University. Khalil called the move politically motivated. His lawyers have asked the board to reconsider. Number 2, a man who prosecutors say burned $500 million in paper products compared himself to alleged United Healthcare CEO killer Luigi Mangione. The accused arsonist faces multiple federal and state charges for this massive warehouse fire out in California. The new video allegedly shows him saying, quote, all you had to do was pay us enough to live, as he set pallets of paper on fire at this Kimberly-Clark facility. His arraignment is next week. Number 3, a new study of chimpanzees in Uganda may give clues as to why humans go to war. Researchers say 2 groups of chimps engaged in a so-called civil war at a national park. Apparently, they were pretty chummy, but a sudden attack turned into a, get this, deadly, decade-long battle. Experts think it could explain how friendships and escalations break down among humans. Number 4, take a look. Body cam video of Illinois police rescuing a man stuck in a river. You see them literally throwing him a lifeline here. A cop heard him call for help. He apparently slipped into the water and couldn't pull himself up. He was sent to a hospital, but is expected to be okay. At number 5, a new potential clue on America's version of a royal wedding. Page 6 reports that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce just sent out save the dates. The mystery location, New York City on July 3rd. We've reached out to reps for both to confirm, but they didn't get back to us. I also cannot confirm or deny if I received a save the date. We'll just leave it there. In just a bit, why Bible verses might become a part of public school education in Texas, plus how the Pope's favorite baseball team will help fans dress like him. Members of the Texas State Board of Education met earlier today to give feedback to a new and controversial required reading list for public schools that'll include stories from the Bible. Yesterday, the board gave preliminary approval for the state required reading list that would go into effect in public schools starting in 2030. The proposed new curriculum included several references to religious texts, including Jonah the whale, David and Goliath, for one high school English 1 and the Book of Job for English 4. The proposal is putting the state of Texas back at the center of a culture war over the role of religion in the classroom. It's an issue that could have national implications. President Trump has promised to protect and even expand religious expression in public schools. Texas, in the last few years, especially, is sort of helping set that agenda. A final vote on the state's list is set for June. Ryan Chandler's covering this for us. He joins us now. So, Ryan, teachers, students, parents, politicians, even religious groups spent hours arguing about this list during public testimony. This is clearly an issue that people feel really strongly about. What are you hearing?
You're right. We're hearing so much passion around this issue. And the way you laid it out is great, especially in the Trump era. The State Board of Education here in Texas has really been a laboratory for some of these more conservative issues that they have prioritized nationwide, but are really trying for the first time here in Texas. We've spent a lot of time poring over this recommended required reading list along with teachers across the state. And what we find are dozens of references to the Bible, to the New Testament, the Old Testament, and parables like the ones that you laid out for kids as young as 6th grade all the way up to seniors through high school. And we find teachers who are concerned about this. I spoke with a history teacher here in the Dallas area yesterday who said that this is going to change the way he teaches, and he doesn't think he'll be able to do a good job of teaching his kids if this is the requirements that he's under.
As a history teacher, that the objective should just be, historical knowledge, not, you shouldn't be made to feel a certain way. You should be made to know. I'm honestly a little bit scared about the direction that we're going in.
I asked Mr. Pruitt there what specifically he's worried about, and he pointed me to a phrase that we see repeated over and over in the recommended guidelines for the social studies, that being history curriculum. In this text, we see repeated 24 times in the guidelines. It says this, Ryan. It says the primary purpose of Texas and American social studies is to educate students to become proud, responsible, and patriotic citizens. Mr. Pruitt takes issue with that language because it doesn't say informed citizens or well-read. It says pride and patriotism is the end goal of education. A lot of teachers take issue with that.
And we mentioned, though, that this isn't the first time we've seen religion make its way in some form into schools, particularly in Texas. Talk to us about the broader push that we're seeing here. And could this have implications for the entire country?
Absolutely, in a number of respects. I'll point you to another law that's actually already on the books here in Texas. Just recently, the legislature passing a law mandating teachers display a poster of the 10 Commandments in their classroom. It's another law trying to push constitutional boundaries. It's very controversial. A lot of critics saying that it violates the Establishment Clause of the Constitution. Interestingly, that law got struck down in the district court on religious grounds, but it's held up in the Fifth Circuit, and its fate is uncertain. Just today, Alabama putting into place a new law modeled very similarly on Texas's. So we see across conservative states, they are modeling what they do off of what Texas does. And crucially, Ryan, we need to remember that more than 1 in 10 students in the entire country are Texas students. So what we do, the textbooks that we order, the preferences that we have for material have effects across the country because it influences the kind of material and textbooks that other states can access, Ryan.
Ryan Chandler, great point. Thanks for being on top of it for us. We appreciate it. NBC covers hundreds of stories each day, and because it's tough to read, watch, or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. From our Western Bureau, at least 8 people face multiple charges, including murder, after a deadly explosion at a California fireworks warehouse. The fire from the explosion killed 7 people who worked there last year. Among those charged, a local sheriff's lieutenant and a firefighter. The DA's office says it is not ruling out more arrests. From our Northeast Bureau, take a look here. A pickup truck submerged in the middle of a Massachusetts pond. You can see divers in the water checking it out. Thankfully, there was nobody inside. Police don't know how the truck got there. Maybe it was bad GPS. And from our Midwest Bureau, the Chicago White Sox will honor their most famous fan with a Pope hat giveaway. Everyone going to the August 11th game will get a Pope Leo XIV themed hat. Remember, the Pope loves the Sox. Video of him at the 2005 World Series went viral after his election last year. The team says the White Sox Pope hat is one that we believe all fans should have the opportunity to take home. You will not be able to give confession, though, so don't go that far. Now back to one of our top stories of the day, the war in Iran and its economic impact right here at home. Our Maggie Vespa is on the ground talking with farmers, taking a closer look at how the conflict overseas is putting a major strain on U.S. crops and maybe soon your wallet at the grocery store.
Across America's heartland, farmers in the crucial spring planting season already fear a fall harvest in the red, potentially losing money thanks in part to a war thousands of miles away.
I'm not a very political person, but everything affects our prices, it seems like, in one way or another.
You're not a very political person, but politics is impacting.
Oh, definitely.
You.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fourth generation corn and soybean farmer Rod Bushmeyer's family has worked this rural Illinois land for more than a century. Rising input costs have long been a fact of life. Bushmeyer says his costs for things like seeds, machinery, and fuel were up 40% in the 5 years after the pandemic. Now another 30% in just the last year.
This is the machine that spreads the fertilizer.
Yeah, in the last month, since the U.S. and Israel started bombing Iran and the crucial shipping artery that is the Strait of Hormuz all but closed, fertilizer and diesel fuel prices soaring. A lot of farmers buy fertilizer bit by bit. Rod only secured 60% before prices jumped. He'll need to buy the rest in the next couple months.
That higher price has to hurt.
It does.
Even amid the ceasefire, fertilizer prices are still sky high. Rod says his local dealer is warning him even if the strait reopens, it could take months for the market to stabilize.
A lot of the damage is already done.
Right.
The going rate for the crops they're selling can also feel a bit like a roller coaster. And now Rod's son Bryce says there's another factor.
You see President Trump post a tweet about meeting with a foreign leader, and it makes the market jump 50 cents, could be up or down. So it's just seems so emotional.
For most Americans, when headlines about farmers fielding higher prices emerge, one question comes to mind. What about the cost of food? Do you see this having an impact?
Absolutely. It's going to affect things.
Pam Polyak's Wisconsin-based company represents another layer in America's food infrastructure. Trucking. Over the last month plus, fueling her 30 trucks has cost her an extra $5,000 per week.
The money's coming from somewhere. Unfortunately, the shippers aren't going to want to eat it, and trucking companies can't afford to absorb it. It's just that simple.
To be clear, the latest inflation report for March shows food prices rose 2.7% over the last year. That's far lower than the post-pandemic spike we saw. But with energy prices up almost 11% from last year and gas up even more, there's growing concern the consumer will eat the cost. Back on the farm, Rod's working alongside his granddaughter, Reese. He hopes the 6th generation to take charge here. But he says this family farm lost money last year, with tariffs contributing to those higher input costs.
You're looking at this year potentially the same thing happening.
Yeah, you can only do that so many years.
Global uncertainty striking American soil.
And Maggie Vespa joins us now. You know, Maggie, I think that all of us pull up to the gas station, we immediately see the cost of this war. But what you're outlining here is how farmers and truckers, in many ways, are the canary in the coal mine situation, right? They're the first ones to have to pay for higher prices. They can't just hold on to those higher prices, right? That pain ripples through the economy. You talked to Rod again today. Does he see this getting any better anytime soon?
Ryan, he really doesn't. That canary in the coal mine metaphor is perfect. And his point was like, look, hypothetically, like indulge this hypothetical, okay? The Strait of Hormuz opens back up today and shipping gets back to normal immediately. Both he and his local fertilizer dealer in Southern Illinois, so two guys who spent decades in this industry, they say even if that happens, it likely would take months for the market to normalize and prices to get back to their pre-war levels. And as we know, as you've covered today, that is nowhere close to reality. Ryan.
Maggie Vespa, thanks for opening our eyes to this growing issue. We appreciate it. After the break, why high costs drove one Senate candidate across the Atlantic Ocean to try and start a family. To tonight's Original Now with in-depth reporting on a topic that we've been watching. Birth rates in the U.S. again hitting a record low last year. New provisional numbers from the CDC this week show the fertility rate falling 23% over the last 2 decades, as many women choose not to have children and led by a massive decline in teenage births. But for many who are trying, they have to think outside the box, or more like outside the country, traveling abroad for more affordable fertility treatments. Our Mel Zanona explains what it has to do with one Senate candidate's campaign.
They tried to have a baby for years with no luck. So last year, Maine Senate candidate Graham Plattner and his wife Amy decided to explore in vitro fertilization. They were instantly hit with sticker shock.
We don't have that money. That's ridiculous.
The couple wed later in life and hoped to start a family right away, but it did not come easy.
It is such an emotional roller coaster of like up, up, up and hopeful and wanting to be optimistic and you're feeling great. And then there's just this point where you know it hasn't worked.
I'm not pretending to have all the answers.
Plattner, an oyster farmer and veteran competing for the Democratic Senate nomination in Maine, is insured through the VA. Amy, a former teacher, now helps with the oyster business. As they grappled with a price tag they couldn't afford, a friend suggested a novel idea, seeking less expensive treatments in Norway. Just one round of IVF in the U.S. can cost $15,000, $20,000, even $30,000. But Plattner says in Norway, it would only cost $5,500. The couple had a virtual consultation with a clinic in Norway and were shocked when they were not billed for the session.
This was the moment I knew we were going. Because we talked to these people for like an hour. They were like, why would you give us money? All we've done is talk. And I'm like, we're going to Norway.
Plattner took a 2-week break from his campaign to travel to Norway with Amy this January. The egg retrieval was performed on her 40th birthday. More Americans are participating in so-called fertility tourism, or traveling abroad for more affordable care. One report shows the global fertility tourism market grew by more than $50 million in 2025 and is projected to reach over $800 million by 2030. In the U.S., just 15 states require IVF coverage, forcing many Americans to pay out of pocket. It's a problem both sides of the aisle have recognized. President Donald Trump surprised many on the campaign trail when he promised IVF would be paid for by the federal government in an interview with NBC News.
We are going to be paying for that treatment.
That hasn't happened yet, though his administration is encouraging families to have more children.
I want more babies in the United States of America.
Trump has taken steps to make IVF drugs cheaper with an executive order, but it only addresses one small part of the process. But the administration tells us a number of other actions have been taken too, including expanding fertility options for employers and cutting red tape by the FDA. And he's navigating a Republican Party split on the issue. In 2024, the Senate GOP blocked the Democrats' bill to provide nationwide access to IVF.
For some reason, like many components of women's health care, it is not considered essential health care by our government. So we don't yet have good federal coverage, although that's starting to get better in little bits and pieces.
You might think that for a veteran like Graham, IVF would be covered, but
the price was insane because the unexplained infertility is my diagnosis. And since we get VA healthcare,
right,
Graham, as the actual physical veteran, cannot receive fertility care.
Right.
Because
it's not technically my fault.
It's not technically.
Even though there's two parts to that equation.
Don't get me started. When I get to the Senate, we're going to be having a serious conversation about this.
Plattner's path to the Senate is no sure thing. First, he needs to beat popular Maine Governor Janet Mills in the primary for the Democratic nomination. And he's faced scrutiny for controversial social media posts from his past. Plattner is running to the left of Mills generally, but they seem to agree on universal health care and affordable IVF.
It needs to be available to absolutely everyone, in this country, just like healthcare should be.
As Plattner tries to grow his supporters and grow his family. Melanie Znona, NBC News.
When we come back, we'll break down all the behind-the-scenes drama of TV's most toxic drama as Euphoria gets ready to return to HBO. The third and final season of the HBO smash hit that some call cable's most toxic teen show is back. Euphoria, the show about sex-crazed, drug-addled Gen Zers that launched the careers of some of Hollywood's biggest superstars. Off-screen tragedies and infighting pushed it back more than 4 years since it last dominated HBO Sunday nights. Chloe Melas has the breakdown on the drama behind one of TV's most dramatic conclusions.
What if you could go back to the beginning?
The teen talent of Euphoria, now red carpet superstars. The drama surrounding the drama taking off before anyone's even seen the final season of the show.
If I could be a different person, I would.
In a way, a fitting beginning of the end to what some call TV's most toxic drama.
The Euphoria premiere was messy.
Rumors swirled about star Zendaya's feud with the show's controversial director and her co-star Sydney Sweeney.
Zendaya completely ignored Sydney Sweeney at the Euphoria Season 3 premiere.
Sweeney and Zendaya allegedly not posing together, with some citing their political differences. Sweeney embraced by some on the right after her controversial American Eagle jeans or jeans ads.
My jeans are blue.
Zendaya, the opposite, a vocal opponent in the past against the Trump administration. Neither actress has confirmed whether politics led to what some fans say were some awkward moments on the red carpet. Natasha Lyonne, a guest star this season, admitting to getting detained after boarding a flight following the premiere, responding to reports that her heart is with, in her words, unpaid TSA agents. It's a life-imitating art moment that underscores the controversial storylines that have garnered so much criticism. The whole show drawing ire and eyeballs throughout its 3-run season.
I relapsed.
Numerous scenes showing genitalia, even rapes involving teenagers. Director Sam Levinson warned parents would be totally effing freaked out by it when the show made its debut, something NBC News heard from some groups when it premiered.
I think is an admission on his part that this show is being marketed to children. Otherwise, why would parents be freaked out?
Sydney Sweeney acknowledged to our own Willie Geist that this happened with her own family the first time they watched.
My dad and my grandpa turned it off and walked out, but my grandma's she's a big supporter of mine.
But that backlash hasn't stopped people from watching or talking about it. Twitter back in 2022 saying the show was the most tweeted about of the decade, with more than 30 million posts on their site during Euphoria's second season. Those numbers causing HBO to quickly renew Euphoria, only for the delays to start. The dual writers and actors strikes of 2023 pushing development back. Then tragedies from the show's starring cast. Angus Cloud dying of a drug overdose at 25. And Eric Dane dying from complications relating to ALS this year at 53. And now rumors of even more animosity among the cast. Barbie Ferreira reportedly quitting after season 2 over feuds with the director. NBC News has reached out to representatives for HBO and Levinson and have not heard back. All of it setting up for a dramatic finale to a show full of drama on and off the screen.
Now to talk more about this. So we know fans haven't seen the show yet. I've seen about 15,000 promos for it on other HBO shows that I watch. But the reviewers have, and the reviews are not so great.
Drum roll, please. Okay, so some of the headlines are beautifully shot, great performances, but disjointed fan fiction. Another one, the New York Post says Euphoria Season 3 is an unhinged disaster. At the end of the day, Sydney Sweeney, Zendaya, you have so many stars on the show. The star has churned out so many A-listers, like we said in the piece. People are still going to watch it. Right. But the reviews are basically saying that it's slow, it's boring, it's lost its steam. Perhaps this might be the final season. Fun fact, though, last night I was at the premiere here in New York City of Lorne, about Lorne Michaels, who created Saturday Night Live. Right. And I walked into the after party, and who is sitting there? Natasha Lyonne, seeming unbothered, around celebrities, seeming in good spirits, despite the news earlier in the week that she caused a plane to be turned around on the tarmac because she wouldn't close her laptop, which she says is one big misunderstanding.
I admit to not watching the show, but when you describe it as being a disaster, isn't that the point? Isn't that kind of what the show's about, being a disaster?
It's this coming-of-age, toxic disaster of a show that people love, but it sounds like some of our most favorite shows of all time, there's drama behind the scenes. Sex and the City,
Right.
Golden Girls, right? Can you believe that
Even
the Golden Girls didn't get along?
Yes.
That always broke my heart.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens when it
But
finally comes out. We get along.
We get along. That's all
This
that matters.
is not fake.
This is real.
for real. There's no disaster.
There's no
here.
AI.
All right. Thanks, Chloe. And that's a wrap for this hour, but our coverage picks up right now. We are coming on the air with a countdown to splashdown. In just 2 hours, the Artemis II crew will return to Earth. They're ready to touch down just off the east coast of California, but strap in because the re-entry is the most risky part of this mission. Our team will explain why in a bit. Also new tonight, how President Trump's war with Iran has raised all sorts of prices. A new report shows inflation tripled. We're live in the region with his new threats ahead of those key peace talks tomorrow. Plus, our team speaks with the lawyer of a man accused of killing his wife in the Bahamas. What he says police want to know as we take you live to the islands. Then breaking in the Bay Area, police say they've arrested a person who threw a Molotov cocktail into the home of OpenAI founder Sam Altman. New details just in from the company tonight. And why a Texas family says an energy drink is to blame for their teenage daughter's death. The new lawsuit that lays out their case for accountability later in the show. Hey there, I'm Ryan Nobles in for Hallie, and we're starting tonight with the most risky moments from the Artemis II astronauts. This is a live look at the Orion spacecraft, and in about 2 hours, it's set to splash down off the coast of Southern California, bringing a dramatic end to a historic mission that sent them to the far side of the moon, further than any other humans ever traveled in space. Just check out some of the stunning photographs that have beamed back to the Earth. This sets up future missions that could see humans land on the moon again and possibly even go to Mars. But re-entering the Earth's atmosphere tonight will be no cakewalk for these 4 astronauts. You see them there making their final preps. The moment is being called the most dangerous part of the mission. The crew will hit Earth's atmosphere at 24,000 miles per hour. The heat around the spacecraft climbing to 5,000 degrees. That's about half the temperature of the surface of the sun. And that's where the big concern is. The heat shield on this spacecraft must hold up to keep these astronauts safe. But it already has known design flaws, so it will be a nail-biting 13-minute re-entry process. Once they're down safely, a team of Navy divers and medics will approach. Our Liz Croyd spoke with one of them. Listen.
These are people who are selected, go through a physical screening process to ensure that they are able to be part of teams that can not only just go out at sea, but go on any type of platform to be able to provide the support from their type of specialty at a moment's notice. So we have surgical teams on board the amphibious ship, as well as an en route care team, search and rescue medical technicians. We have emergency medicine physicians on board, all of whom are there to support NASA and their medical team as they retrieve and recover the astronauts.
We've got team coverage tonight. Gotti Schwartz is in all his space geek glory. Tom Costello, of course, has been following this journey from the very beginning. Gentlemen, we're getting closer and closer to splashdown. So, Tom, let's first talk about the Orion situation here. It is going to slow down from 25,000 miles per hour to about 20. That's a feat that's never been done on this spacecraft with people on board. How does the crew prepare for such a dramatic drop in their speed?
Yeah, on the spacecraft with people on board is the right caveat because, of course, they did do this with Artemis 1. That was an uncrewed mission, but you showed the images of the heat shield on Artemis 1, and there was some scarring and some burning on the heat shield that they did not like. And so they went back and they tried to figure out why did that happen? What can they do to change that? Because in theory, that could put the crew at risk, right? If you are going in at that kind of an angle and you cause any sort of a degradation of the shield, there's the scarring and the burning from Artemis 1. They're going to come in at Mach 33, as you mentioned, 25,000 miles per hour. And when they hit the atmosphere at about 400,000 feet, they will go into a radio comms blackout for 6 minutes. 6 minutes of radio silence. And yes, everybody will be very nervous about that journey and about the astronauts at that moment. But this heat shield is the central focus. We talked to a heat shield expert to talk about how NASA has been really drilling down on the shield and making changes to the angle of entry. You'll hear them call angle of attack, but the angle of re-entry to mitigate the heat on the shield.
There's been a long development in the heat shield, and as we continue to do the flight tests, we take the learning from each previous test and apply that to the next evolution of the heat shield system.
Yeah, and just a reminder, the stakes here could not be higher, right? As we all remember, the Columbia astronauts were lost when their heat shield allowed the flames and the fire to enter the shuttle on re-entry. Of course, the shield had been damaged, but all of those astronauts died, and that is not lost on anybody. So instead of spending 20 minutes on that re-entry corridor, they've changed it to 13 minutes. Less time. They're coming in steeper, but less time in the extreme heat, and they're hoping that that, in fact, will prove, and all of the analysis has proven that that should, in fact, make sure that the shield holds as it's expected to. 7:53 p.m. Eastern Time is when they enter what they call, as you have probably heard the term, oh boy, how did I just do that after saying this every day for 5 days? Interface. Entry interface, of course. Gotti Schwartz clearly knows what that is. Entry interface, 7:53 p.m. Eastern Time, splashdown 8:07 Eastern Time.
You might be spaced out, Tom, if that's possible
it's
for you.
It's been a long 2 weeks.
You might have gotten to that point.
Yeah, that's right.
So, Gotti, we know that you just eat and breathe this stuff, but tell us, what's your inside Spaceball element that you're looking for tonight?
Spaceball. I mean, Spaceball, that must be like a may the Schwartz be with you joke. Speaking of Spaceballs, I do have, hold up real fast here. We have this ball. This is all of us. And what Tom was saying is so right and so mind-blowing when you think about it. So I made this just a little bit ago. This is my little capsule. Here's Orion, and he was talking about that angle of attack, right? So in Artemis 1, what NASA tried to do is, you know how like back in the day you'd go to the lake and you'd try to skip a stone? That's what they were doing. They were trying to skip the capsule off the atmosphere just a little bit to bleed off a little bit of that velocity and then come back down. And what that would do is that would allow them to kind of go further, adjust some of their trajectory. It was also a little bit more comfy for the astronauts if they were on board because it wasn't such a high G load. But as you saw, there were some issues with the heat shield from this new skipping maneuver where they were going to skip off the atmosphere. So what they're doing now, and this is why, maybe we shouldn't stress out too much, is they're going back to the old school. They're going back to the Apollo days when that angle of attack was not like a skip and rock. It was like, no, we're going to plow. We are going to grind straight into the atmosphere. We don't need a braking system. Earth has given us a braking system. So, Ryan, check this out. This is India. They're going to enter somewhere over India, and then they're going to grind all the way past India, past China, all the way through the Pacific Ocean. They're going to keep grinding, coming down from 24,000 miles per hour, and then they're going to be going a lot slower by the time they get to San Diego. That's when they come to a slow enough speed that they can hit those drogue parachutes. Those 3 other parachutes come out. They're using parachutes from basically technology from the 1700s. And then the last piece of slowdown, the ocean. They make that comfy landing from the ocean. The water does the rest. The air, the atmosphere, the ocean, that is the braking system that NASA's using right now.
Gotti, I loved every single part of that. I think Tom did too. But I think the most interesting...
Give that man his own TV show. Oh, wait, he has one.
Is this,
send me to space.
At 8 o'clock, you're just going to be playing with toys.
Is to go to space.
But Gotti, I want to drill down on something. Did you say you made that capsule model?
Oh.
What actually is that?
I'm not going to lie. Listen, I've been watching Tom Costello forever. He is my, he's my idol, right? But I will say, Tom Costello had this sick-looking Orion capsule. I'm in LA. I'm not at Houston, right? I don't have an amazing shop that I could go and get a perfect replica. So NBCers will appreciate this. I stole this. This is a Jim Award that we give out here from NBC that I've never gotten. So underneath this is a Jim Award and a coffee espresso at the top. But I do have a NASA patch, so it is very official. Tom, Jim Award. I think you owe me one now.
I actually have it. I'm going to send you one. I got an Orion model in my office. I should have brought it out.
He wants a Jim Award. He doesn't want an Orion model. He wants the Jim Award. Can we send him both?
Your model's better than my real model.
Just send me to space.
Unfortunately, I could do this all day, guys, but the Orion's going to come crashing through the atmosphere, and we've got a couple of other stories to get to before that. But thank you guys both. We really appreciate it. We're going to have much more on Artemis later as the crew gets ready to enter the Earth's atmosphere in a capsule that's slightly more technologically advanced than the one that Gotti fashioned. And then we'll have special coverage of the splashdown tonight at 7:30 Eastern on NBC's network and right here on NBC News Now. Today, markets dipped slightly after a new report showed inflation tripling because of the Iran war. Those numbers mostly driven by gas prices. They surged 21% in March alone. For context, that's the highest one-month uptick since the Vietnam War. And if you're heading to the pump today, the average national gas price is a whopping $4.15. Because even with this fragile ceasefire, only 2 ships crossed that crucial Strait of Hormuz today. President Trump told reporters in just the last hour that the strait will open soon. Listen.
Now we're going to open up the Gulf with or without them. But that'll be open. We're going to be, or the strait as they call it. And I think it's going to go pretty quickly. And if it doesn't, we'll be able to finish it off one way or the other. It's going well.
That from the president ahead of some critical peace talks taking place in Pakistan this weekend. You can see the vice president making his way there to help represent the U.S. And while they're holding out hope for a positive outcome, the president says the military is ready if the talks fall through, telling the New York Post, and I'm quoting here, "We're loading up the ships." Let's bring in Matt Bradley. He is standing by in Tel Aviv. Let's start with these high-stakes talks because both sides have issued new threats ahead of the meeting. Give us a reality check on where things stand. How fragile is this ceasefire?
I mean, extremely fragile. When we're talking about these negotiations, the idea behind them was that they were supposed to be negotiating towards a more permanent ceasefire, essentially extending this 2-week deadline that President Trump had promised on Tuesday night ahead of his own ultimatum. Now it looks as though the negotiations themselves and the ceasefire itself are very much in jeopardy. As you mentioned, we heard from Ghalibaf, Mohammed Ghalibaf. He is the speaker of Iran's parliament, and he is now the head of the delegation that just arrived in Pakistan from the Iranian side. Now, what he was talking about in a tweet today, he mentioned 2 rules, 2 basically goals that the Iranians have that they say need to be met before these negotiations even start. Worth noting, these negotiations are supposed to begin tomorrow. These 2 goals are very unlikely. One of them is that Israel would stop fighting north of its border in Lebanon against Hezbollah. They have been bombing in enormous amounts all over the country, killing really thousands of people and setting off hundreds of thousands in a massive internally displaced crisis there. Now, the other objective that the Iranians say they need is for all of their assets that are now abroad to be unfrozen so that they have access to them. Those are 2 very, very big demands ahead of a high-stakes negotiation to avert a continued war. So, to put it mildly, things are not looking good.
No. You mentioned Lebanon, and it really has become a sticking point in all of this. We know, you mentioned the strikes that have launched there. Does it feel as though things have slowed down at all? Have they increased the strikes since the ceasefire? Has it just been what it's been from the very beginning? Give us a sense of what's on the ground there.
Yeah, it's a very good question. And certainly things have slowed down in terms of Israel's offensive in Lebanon against Hezbollah, targeting all of these areas. Many civilians have been killed. But they've only really slowed down in the sense that when we saw those initial strikes on Tuesday evening going into Wednesday, around the time that we saw the announcement of that ceasefire, that was the largest, most powerful set of strikes that Israel has launched against Lebanon in generations. So we were bound to see some sort of decrease in the firepower that Israel has been using. What it is down to now is not nearly what the Iranians mean when they say that they want the fighting with Israel to stop in Lebanon. And Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, has said that he wants it both ways, quite explicitly. They want to continue negotiating. They want to be part of these, basically part of this ceasefire. They're not playing a direct role in the negotiations. They've reached out to the Lebanese government, distinct from Hezbollah, and say they're open to negotiations. But at the same time, they're not going to be able to rein in Hezbollah anytime soon because the Lebanese government just isn't that powerful.
Okay, Matt Bradley on the ground for us in Tel Aviv. Matt, thanks for that. A dramatic turn now in the disappearance of an American woman in the Bahamas. An attorney for the woman's husband now says the investigation is focused on the possibility that he may have caused some sort of harm that resulted in her death. Brian Hooker's attorney spoke to our own Jesse Kirsch immediately after his hours-long interview with authorities. Take a listen.
When Brian Hooker hears that possibility being presented to him, what is his reaction to that?
Oh, he was pretty upset and emotional. At one point, he even broke down into tears.
Police in the Bahamas arrested Brian Hooker earlier this week in connection to his wife's disappearance. According to Hooker, he and his wife were boating together over the weekend when she fell overboard. Hooker says the waves that night had been rough. We should note that both of them are pretty experienced on the water. Brian and Lynette Hooker have been sailing for more than a decade, according to Lynette Hooker's daughter. But her daughter also says the couple had a history of not getting along, especially when they drink. Hooker has denied any wrongdoing. Jesse Kirsch is on the ground in the Bahamas. So, Jesse, what comes next?
Yeah, Ryan, there are a couple different ways this can go. We are told by Hooker's attorney that in about an hour or so, he has to be released if he's not charged because a 48-hour clock that started when he was arrested will be expiring. There is also the third option, according to the attorney, which would be police requesting an extension of his detainment. So we are waiting to see what will happen in the next hour or so. Will Brian Hooker walk out of this jail? We have reached out to police repeatedly. We have not been given a comment on these claims from Brian Hooker's attorney yet. That attorney also telling me that she believes this investigation is leading possibly toward a murder charge. Here's why she believes that.
He was questioned in relation to causing harm, which resulted in her death, but we have no evidence that, or at least we've not been informed of any evidence that any body has been recovered or any information in relation to her death.
And again, we have not heard from police when we have asked them about these claims from the attorney. They have not given us a comment on this yet, Ryan.
And, of course, there's the search for Lynette. That's still going on. Where does that effort stand?
Yeah, we're coming up on a full week almost, Ryan, since authorities believe Lynette Hooker disappeared. And what I was told by the Royal Bahamas Defense Force earlier when I spoke with one of their commanders, told that search is ongoing. We know at one point the U.S. Coast Guard was involved. They are not involved in the search at this point, but we know that the Coast Guard is investigating what has unfolded here. But we're told by the military here, the military as well as the police continue to search. And I'm told this involves drones in the air and underwater, and of course, searching by boat and also searching on land, Ryan.
No matter what, it's a tragedy. Jesse Kirsch, thanks so much. We appreciate it. We're learning that a person is now under arrest for allegedly throwing a Molotov cocktail at the home of OpenAI's CEO. The company says the person also made threats outside the company's headquarters in San Francisco. Nobody was hurt, though. The San Francisco Police Department said charges are still pending and that the case is an open and active investigation. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has not publicly addressed the arrest. Camila Bernal is joining us now. Do we know anything about the damage that this caused or if Altman was even home, Camila?
Hey, Ryan. So at this point, not a lot of details, but it does not appear that the damage was significant, especially because we heard from the San Francisco Fire Department saying that someone had already put this out by the time even firefighters got there. So it was essentially put out very quickly. We know this happened at around 4 in the morning, and there was this 20-year-old man who was there through this Molotov cocktail, and it landed near one of the front gates of the house. So he was not able to get into the home in any way. And then we know that he was able to escape. He fled on foot, and it's unclear exactly where he went, but authorities were able to get a good description of him. So officers were on the lookout for him, and about an hour later, at around 5 in the morning, this 20-year-old shows up to headquarters, to OpenAI headquarters in Mission Bay there in San Francisco, and that's when authorities quickly recognized him and arrested him. But before they were able to do that, this 20-year-old did make threats about burning down the building, the headquarters of OpenAI, and so it's unclear what he's going to be charged with, because last we asked SFPD, they do not have the charging information yet, and they say this is still an open investigation. They're still looking into all of this, so we are still waiting for a lot of the details here. But like you mentioned, Sam Altman did not comment specifically on all of this, only the company did, saying essentially that thankfully everyone here is okay. Ryan?
All right, Camila Bernal, thanks for the update. New details tonight about a scary close call at LAX. A service truck apparently cut off a Frontier Airlines flight that was taxiing. Here's what happened inside the cockpit.
Two trucks just cut us off. We had to slam on the brakes not to hit. It happened so fast. Both of us were just like, holy shit. So we slammed on the brakes. I'm going to have to call the flight to make sure everybody's all right in the back. It was real close, closest I've ever seen.
This took place on Wednesday night around 11:30. The FAA says it's still looking into the incident. It comes just weeks after that deadly collision at LaGuardia Airport in New York last month. 2 pilots died and dozens of other passengers got hurt after an Air Canada plane that had just landed collided with a fire truck on the runway. Let's go right to Morgan Chesky, who's following this story for us. So, Morgan, this was happening at a time when people might already be a little anxious about flying because of that incident that had just happened at LaGuardia. What more do we know?
Yeah, we're still learning more from federal investigators here, Ryan. But late on Wednesday, just after 11 o'clock, in fact, the FAA confirms that this Frontier flight was on a taxiway at LAX and was trying to make its way to the runway where it was on a red-eye flight to Atlanta when not one but 2 vehicles essentially cut off the plane, forcing the pilots there to slam on the brakes, scaring everyone on board. There were more than 200 passengers and 7 crew on board this Airbus jet. Fortunately, no reports of any injuries there. For their part, Frontier has issued a very brief statement just kind of acknowledging this close call and incident, reading very briefly that they're aware of it. No injuries were reported to the passengers or to the crew. But Ryan, it does raise questions as to protocol here. We know that because this was on a taxiway and not a runway, the FAA has said that there may or may not have been kind of direct communication required with the air traffic controllers at that point in time. But I want you to hear from our aviation expert on what he sees, considering the facts that we know right now. Take a listen.
I think there was a breakdown in the procedures and the communications that allowed this to happen. We don't know exactly on which side the communication breakdown occurred. I don't think it was the pilots. They're the ones that brought it to air traffic control's attention.
Now, this coming so shortly after that fatal incident that happened at LaGuardia, it does raise some questions here, Ryan. Notably, both of these incidents occurred at night. Both of them involved not another plane, but a much smaller vehicle there at the airport. Fortunately, though, in this case, because it happened on a taxiway and not a runway, the speeds were significantly lower, likely contributing to the fact that there were no injuries here. This whole ordeal remains under investigation, but a very close call there at one of the busiest airports on the planet. Ryan.
Morgan Chesky, thank you for that. The family of a teenage girl is suing the distributor of a popular energy drink because they say their daughter died from drinking too much of it. Larissa Nicole Rodriguez, you see her here, was a 17-year-old student headed for college when she died in October from what her family says was an enlarged heart caused by ingesting too much caffeine. According to the lawsuit, Rodriguez drank Alani Nu, an energy drink, to give her a boost for school and sports, and because of the ads on social media that claimed they had health benefits. 1 can of Alani Nu has 200 milligrams of caffeine, but the FDA recommends that kids and teens have less than 100 milligrams of caffeine per day. We reached out to the drink distributor for comment, but we haven't heard back. Emily Akeda joins me now. I have a teenage daughter who loves energy drinks, so this is obviously something that makes me very concerned.
Yeah, especially the fruity ones, the flavorful ones.
Right.
Yeah.
And they also, when we say the one drink is 200 milligrams, they often drink more than just one of them in a day.
Yeah.
What does accountability look like for this family? What are they looking for here?
Well, they are seeking more than $1 million in damages, but I think that the attorney says the family is really hoping to prevent this from happening to another family, another tragedy like this, another young person. And you look at someone like Larissa Rodriguez, you see her on your screen, 17 years old, cheerleader, involved, active, healthy. She didn't have, according to the attorney, any pre-existing heart conditions. And so not only was this a tragedy, but it also was a shock. It was very sudden. And they believe that it was the high levels of caffeine that contributed to the fatal cardiac incident. And so in the lawsuit, it says that she wasn't made aware of risks for this go-to drink. The only cautionary language on the can, quote, not recommended for children, is printed in small, inconspicuous text that is easily overlooked. Here's more from the attorney when I talked to him today.
When every single drug that was tested, every alcohol test came back negative, and only caffeine was found in her system, we felt very strongly that there was something we needed to investigate. We are specifically going after them for failing to warn and failing to prevent innocent people that are like children, in this case, Larissa, from taking this drink, not knowing the risks.
So this wrongful death lawsuit is targeting specifically the distributor, but the attorney tells me that it very well could expand and we could see a further defendants in this case.
And you touched on this a little bit, but the marketing of it has got to be a big part of it, right? I know my daughter loves the colorful cans. It does seem as though they are targeting this toward a younger audience, towards teenagers in particular. Are the companies saying about the potential dangers of marketing to young people?
Well, I think you look on social media and you will see these energy drinks everywhere. They've got fun colors, fun flavors. The distributor didn't respond to a request for comment, but Celsius, which owns Alani Nu, they are not a defendant in this case, but they said in part, saddened by this loss and our thoughts are with the family. We take product safety seriously and believe consumers should have clear information about what they are drinking. Our products comply with applicable federal labeling requirements, and our policy is not to market or sample to anyone under 18. But in the background of all of this surging popularity across all of the big energy drink names, Ryan.
As if we didn't have enough to worry about as parents of teenagers. But Emily Akita, thanks for the update. We appreciate it. And some breaking news just into us. A former staffer for Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell, a leading candidate in California's governor's race, alleges she had multiple sexual encounters with him, including 2 assaults where she was too intoxicated to consent and fully remember. This according to a new report from the San Francisco Chronicle, who says it reviewed text messages and medical records related to her allegations. The Chronicle also reports that her and her then boyfriend says she told him about the 2024 alleged assault at the time. The congressman responded in a statement to the Chronicle saying, and I'm quoting here, "These allegations are false and come on the eve of an election against the frontrunner for governor." Now, NBC News has confirmed the identity of the woman who, according to congressional staff records, did work for Swalwell. We are out to her attorney for comment. NBC News has not confirmed any of the details of the allegations reported in the Chronicle. Let's bring in our Mel Zanona. So, Mel, what more are we learning about what could potentially be a bombshell in this race for governor?
Yeah, no doubt. These are very serious allegations, Ryan. So I'm going to try to break them all down for you. This first alleged encounter occurred in September 2019. This woman who spoke to the Chronicle said she was working for the congressman at the time, that he invited her to drinks, and that she became so intoxicated at those drinks that she doesn't remember the rest of the night. But what she did say she remembers is waking up in the congressman's hotel room the next morning. And according to the story in the Chronicle, she said she felt the effect of vaginal intercourse. Then the second alleged sexual encounter occurred after an April 2024 gala. At the time, she was no longer working for the congressman, but she told the Chronicle that she met up with him once again for drinks after this event, and that she once again got so inebriated that she only remembered, quote, snippets of the night. But one thing that she does remember is later on in the evening, Swalwell forcing himself on her and her telling him no. Now, the Chronicle, they did speak speak to her then boyfriend, as you mentioned, who she had told about this alleged encounter at the time. The Chronicle also reviewed text messages that she sent at the time talking about this alleged encounter. And the Chronicle also reviewed medical records showing that she actually sought STD tests as well as a pregnancy test about a week after that alleged encounter occurred. And now, just to reemphasize here, we have not spoken to this woman, Ryan, but we have been able to confirm her identity, confirm that she was employed by the congressman for a period of time. We also did reach out to Swalwell, both to his campaign and to his congressional office. We also spoke to an attorney, reached out to them. We have not heard from any of them, but he did deny these allegations in a statement that you read to the Chronicle. So this is really reverberating already through his campaign. Even as the congressman is denying it, some of his closest allies in Congress are taking it very, very seriously. You had Congressman Jimmy Gomez. He was actually the campaign chair for his gubernatorial bid. Jimmy Gomez has now stepped down from that role today and also is calling on Eric Swalwell to drop his bid for governor. And then another remarkable statement from Senator Ruben Gallego. He also endorsed the congressman. He's one of his closest allies in Congress, one of his best friends on a personal level. He also put out a statement saying he's withdrawing his endorsement. He finds these allegations indefensible. He said he's taking them very seriously, and also that he regrets defending Eric Swalwell on social media earlier this week. So the fallout really only just beginning, and what is shaping up to be quite a bombshell of a story. Ryan.
Okay, and Mel Zanona, Eric Swalwell was the leading Democratic candidate in this race. We'll see how this affects the race going forward. We appreciate that reporting, and thanks for bringing it to us so quickly. Coming up, we're going to take a live look now at the Artemis crew as we count down to their return to Earth. That's just a little more than 90 minutes from now. We're going to bring you live coverage in just a bit. But first, new details just into NBC of the president's controversial arch. We're going to show you what it could look like. Plus, why the charity that Prince Harry co-founded says it's now suing him. The HIV and AIDS charity that Prince Harry helped create in honor of his late mother just sued him for defamation. Sentabale, which is based in southern Africa, accuses him of designing a media campaign that led to, and I'm quoting here, an onslaught of cyberbullying directed at the charity and its leadership. Harry stepped down from his leadership post with the charity last year after a public fallout with the board's chair. A spokesperson for the prince says that he, quote, categorically rejects these offensive and damaging claims. Let's bring in Valerie Castro. What more are we learning about these allegations against the prince?
Yeah, Ryan, so this has all been brewing since last year when Harry first left the organization over that internal conflict with the chair of the board. And she accused him of trying to orchestrate a campaign of bullying to force her out of the organization. So this lawsuit is a result of that conflict and claims libel or slander, accusing Prince Harry of that for comments that were made during that conflict. And the lawsuit says this was all the result of an adverse media campaign. And the organization released its own statement saying, in part, false narratives circulated through the media about the charity and its leadership, attempts to undermine its relationships with staff, existing and prospective partners, and the forced diversion of leadership time and resources into managing a reputational crisis not of the charity's making. And the statement went on to say the charity seeks the court's intervention, protection, and restitution. Now, at the time of this big conflict, the Charity Commission for England and Wales also launched an independent investigation. It actually found that both parties were at fault here for allowing this conflict to go public, and that damaged the organization's reputation. But it also found that there was no evidence of widespread bullying. Still, this lawsuit was filed today, and there has been a response from Prince Harry through a spokesperson saying it is extraordinary that charitable funds are now being used to pursue legal action against the very people who built and supported the organization for nearly 2 decades, rather than being directed to the communities the charity was created to serve. So, Ryan, very complicated, still vague exactly what the details are, but certainly more to come.
All right, Valerie, thanks for unpacking that messy situation for us. We appreciate it. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, a man who prosecutors say burned $500 million in paper products compared himself to alleged United Healthcare CEO killer Luigi Mangione. The accused arsonist faces multiple federal and state charges for this massive warehouse fire out in California. New video allegedly shows him saying, quote, "All you had to do was pay us enough to live," as he set pallets of paper on fire at this Kimberly-Clark facility. His arraignment is next week. Number 2, could former Vice President Kamala Harris be making a comeback? You be the judge.
So are you going to run again in 28?
Listen, I might. I'm thinking about it.
So not a yes, not a no. Certainly seems she's leaning in that direction. Remember, she's already run and lost in one presidential election. Maybe 2 if you count back to 2016. But Harris added she knows what the job requires. Number 3, a new study of chimpanzees in Uganda may give clues as to why humans go to war. Researchers say 2 groups of chimps engaged in a so-called civil war at a national park. Apparently they were pretty chummy, but a sudden attack turned into a deadly decade-long battle. Experts think it could explain how friendships and escalations break down among humans. Number 4, take a look. New renderings out today for President Trump's 250-foot arch in Washington. It would be right across from the Lincoln Memorial. The White House says it's to celebrate America's 250th birthday. And number 5, check this out. Golf fans all want a piece of this little guy. Huge lines for the official Masters gnome sold out after an hour. But it might be the last shot to get one. Augusta National Golf Course doesn't plan to sell them next year. They're popping up on resale markets for as much as $800. Officials say they may restock for next year, given the demand. And Kamala Harris ran in 2020 and in 2024, just to get it all set. When we come back, you see the view from space right there as the Artemis crew gets ready for their historic splashdown. We have our own countdown coming up after this. And back to our lead story tonight. In just over an hour from now, a real nail-biting moment for NASA and all of us here on Earth, because the Artemis II astronauts are on track to splash down off the coast of California. It's going to happen right after 8 o'clock Eastern. Let's get another look now, live inside the Orion spacecraft in its final stretch home. But as we said earlier, this is really the most dangerous part of the mission. The heat shield on the capsule has known design flaws. It will face temperatures nearly half as hot as the surface of the sun as it re-enters Earth's atmosphere. So we have an all-star panel to get you ready for splashdown. Tom Costello and Gotti Schwartz have been following this mission from the start. We also have astronomer and space scientist Dr. Emily Rice, who's wearing a moon blouse. I don't know if you can tell that on TV. Craters and all, very impressive. Yes, an Artemis necklace. You definitely got the assignment. I appreciate that, Dr. Rice. And former NASA astronaut Steve Robinson, who's only just wearing his flight jacket. I mean, I guess that counts too. That works. I appreciate you all being here. So, Tom, let's first set the stage here. What are our biggest concerns about this heat shield as they begin to make reentry?
Yeah. And by the way, Steve Robinson has real expertise on the heat shield. We should ask him this as well. Here's the bottom line. Right now, they are traveling, I just checked this a second ago, real-time NASA data, 11,000 miles per hour. And when they hit the 400,000-foot level in the atmosphere, they will then hit 25,000 miles per hour. That's Mach 33. They're going to come screaming into the atmosphere, right? So we are really closely watching this heat shield on the bottom. Now, on the Artemis I mission, that was an uncrewed, in other words, unmanned mission. When they came through the atmosphere, they had significant charring, if you will, burn marks, cuts on the bottom, much more than NASA was comfortable with. So as a result, they've changed what they call the angle of attack, the angle of descent here. And instead of coming in kind of in a slower, longer path, they're coming in hard and fast. It will be very hot, but the idea is it will be a quicker descent. The heat will not last as long as it did on the Artemis I, and hopefully, therefore, you're kind of mitigating the heat on the shield. Now, they're also going to lose comms. They're going to be in blackout conditions for a total of 6 minutes. Now, that's not unexpected, but at 23 seconds after they begin that reentry interface, once they begin hitting the atmosphere, that's when they lose comms for about 6 minutes. And everybody will be a little nervous, right? Everybody will be watching closely and holding their breath. There is every reason to believe that this will go right. But we are also haunted by the memory of Columbia, of course. And Steve Robinson's mission was the first after Columbia, when those astronauts died, when their heat shield failed for a different reason. It was hit by debris. But nonetheless, that underscores the risk of coming in on reentry with a heat shield that might be compromised. So everybody's going to be watching this very closely. No reason to believe that this heat shield is compromised, but the stakes, of course, are very high.
So, Steve, weigh in on this. Tom kind of set the stage for us in terms of what we should be looking for from these heat shields. How nervous are you about this? Do you think NASA has this figured out, or is it something that in the back of your mind gives you a little anxiety?
NASA, I think it does have this figured out. Capsules have been entering the atmosphere with humans inside for more than 60 years, and we haven't had a failure yet, except on Columbia, where it was hit from the outside by something else. That's not going to happen on this flight. NASA has done, I'm very knowledgeable about the amount of work that NASA has done on this particular heat shield. Now, these are test flights. On the previous Artemis 1, NASA learned a lot about the heat shields, and it was the problems they had with it was really due to the way they entered the atmosphere. They entered the atmosphere, skipped off on purpose, and then came back in. That skip-off generated gas that was inside the heat shield that couldn't get out, and it popped off sections of the heat shield. It was still fine. There was no thermal overload or anything. But this time, they're not going to do that skip. They're not going to get that trapped gas. And, of course, I'm nervous about entry. I'm always nervous about entry.
Yeah, right. Even if you have everything figured out, something could always still go wrong. So, Gotti, talk to us a little bit. We see the astronauts inside the capsule right now. It's fascinating to see them live as they're preparing for reentry. What are they experiencing right now? What's the next hour going to be like as they make this journey home?
Yeah, I don't know who that is over there on the left of us, but they just ate something. They took something, they squeezed it into their mouth. And Ryan, I gotta say, before we even here's something that is crazy. I've never been to space, but we're looking at this down here on Earth, and we're like, okay, well, they're sitting down and they've got up, right? No, there is no such thing as up or down in Earth. And that is about to change in space. That is about to change when they come down to Earth. In that little crack, you see somebody that is like horizontal, sideways, they're moving around. No up or down, but in about an hour, 1 hour from now, or maybe a little bit less than an hour, that crew module, service module separation is going to happen. That's those kind of like solar panel wings. Those are going to come off. They're going to separate, and that is going to expose the heat shield for the first time. And then they're going to do this thing called a raise burn. It's about an 18-second burn, so you got the capsule here. I think right now, and I'll have to check with an astronaut, but I think they're coming down like this orientation. Then they're going to come 18 seconds, and then they're going to face Earth like this so that the heat shield is facing the right way. And then from then on, they will know which way is up, which way is down for the rest of their time down here on Earth. But right now, these are the last moments that they are in zero gravity. And it is, again, could you imagine being a human up there and they are about to experience those 4 or 5 Gs, which are 3 to 4 Gs, if I understand correctly, which isn't crazy. Fighter pilots can pull up to 9 Gs. But that ride is going to be relatively smooth as fighter pilots are concerned as they come down. But Ryan, again, those people on the outside, they're chilling in 75-degree weather right now inside of that capsule. Outside is going to be, as you said, like we're comparing surface of the sun. It's like twice as hot as lava. I mean, thousands and thousands of degrees Fahrenheit with a plasma cocoon all around it as they streak across the sky over the Pacific. Incredible to watch.
So let's bring Dr. Rice into the conversation. We know that this is a building block, right? Artemis 1, they sent a test capsule up. Now we've got astronauts on board. The eventual goal to land on the moon and then perhaps even go to Mars. What have we already learned about the potential of human space exploration just from this mission?
This has been amazing. We've learned, I think, from this mission that we can do it. We can do it again. The Apollo missions landed humans on the moon. None of these astronauts were alive, I realized, when humans last stepped on the moon.
That's really fascinating.
None of them, yeah. And it's amazing that we still have some of those astronauts alive. I love that we have this overlap between the Apollo generation and the Artemis generation. And I think we've also learned that we can do it internationally as well. It's an international collaboration. Even though NASA is the space agency that's on everybody's minds, it's really an international collaboration. So the service module was built by the European Space Agency. There were CubeSats that were launched by Artemis when it first launched, and those were launched into low Earth orbit. And then, of course, we have our first Canadian astronaut circling the moon. And so that's really, really fun.
And so the goal is that they would land on the moon in 2028. Is that realistic based on everything that's happened on this mission?
I would love to see it. I do think this mission, like, we only have a couple more hours before we can call it a full success. I think we're getting very, very close. And I think one of the wonderful things about this mission is that the crew has emphasized that they hope to be a footnote eventually in the grander plan of the Artemis missions. And that does include, so Artemis 3 is going to test the docking in Earth orbit, and then Artemis 4 is going to take people back to the moon. Okay. So still a lot of technology to develop, but we're on track, and it's happened kind of more quickly before back in the 60s.
And so speaking of on track, Tom, I understand NASA's given us an update with the final suit check. What does that mean, and what comes after that?
Means all good, and they're about to just make absolutely sure with the umbilical cords, but all good. They're wearing their suits for reentry. And can I just make the point here? I have been in the training simulator there with some of the astronauts. And so I can tell you, I know the positions here. Reed Weissman, the commander, is on the left, the closest to us. Next to him, on his right, that's Victor Glover. He is the pilot. And then the other two mission specialists are down below, kind of out of shot. So that's Reed on the left and Victor on the right. And Jeremy and Christina, of course, are down further at their feet as they ride this thing back down. And it is fully in the automated mode, right? They're not going to have to manually fly this. It is all being controlled by the computers, all being controlled by the mission control computers. And that's as it should be, because you do not want to be manually flying something at 25,000 miles per hour on reentry. If you try to fly it with a stick, you're going to make a mistake. So this is all perfectly calculated and calibrated as they move in here to the approach of reentry. By the way, I want to reiterate the timeline here. 7:53 p.m. Eastern time is when they hit the atmosphere, 400,000 feet up. And they call that the reentry interface here. And it is going to come in at an angle, as Gotti said, coming in at an angle and then plunging, and the heat on the bottom, as you mentioned, 5,000 degrees.
Yeah. Steve, I'm kind of struck by the fact that these astronauts are all strapped in here. They've got their spacesuits ready to go. How long have they been in that position? I'm getting anxiety. I have to get on a flight later tonight about how long I have to be on a flight for like an hour. How long have they been in this position where they can't move at all and in such tight quarters? And is this something you also train for, to be prepared to be in a position like this for an extended period of time?
No, these are astronauts. No problem whatsoever. They haven't been in this position for very long. For launch, it was a lot longer. And let me tell you, when they're coming in through the atmosphere, we've been talking a lot about what happens on the outside. What do these astronauts see from the inside? And this is something no one has seen from an Orion capsule because it's never been flown by humans before. So here's what they're going to see. We've been talking about this plasma sheath around the capsule. A plasma sheath is kind of what happens on the inside of a neon bulb. So what they're going to see is glowing air that starts out kind of light yellow and goes all the way through orange to red as they come down into the denser atmosphere. And this will be glowing brightly through their windows and casting colors across the capsule. It's going to be an amazing thing for them to see.
We now have Liz Kreutz, who's going to join us now. She's off the coast of California. This is in the general vicinity of where the crew is expected to splash down. And Liz, you had the opportunity to talk to some of the members of the Navy who are actually going to go get these crew members. What did you hear, and what should we expect from that stage of this return?
Yeah, hey, Ryan, from sunny San Diego, we're here. Everyone's so excited. It seems like the weather conditions are really holding out and really good for this splashdown. In fact, right behind me is the Navy base in Coronado, and that is where the astronauts are going to be flown to once they are retrieved from the Orion capsule. So we'll be watching out for that later today. But we did have a chance to talk to the Navy about this recovery mission to retrieve the astronauts. It is meticulously planned. They have the USS Murpha recovery ship already out there. This recovery is going to happen about 50 or 60 miles off the coast of San Diego. So we won't be able to see it visually, but we do know that they have very experienced medical medical Navy divers. 4 of them in particular are going to be the ones to make the first contact with the astronauts right there in the Orion capsule. They gave us a list. The Navy was telling us these are the #1 things they're going to be doing in that moment. First and foremost, checking for any trauma. If there's any medical emergency, they're going to make sure that the astronauts are coherent. They're going to ask them if they feel any pain. They're going to do a pat down to make sure that everything looks okay. At that point, Navy helicopters are on standby and will helicopter them to that recovery ship. From there, they'll be evaluated again. There's even surgeons on board prepared if they need to. This is a recovery mission that they have been training for with NASA for more than a year. Take a listen.
They've been training with NASA for a long time, rehearsing these drills in many cases, a year or more. And what they do, nobody else in the world can do. They're prepared to do all of this at night if they have to. Very technical details of a platform, a spacecraft in this case, that they're not accustomed to working with.
And they were actually telling us that earlier this year, the Navy divers that are involved with this, along with NASA, went far out to sea off the coast of San Diego here for a week. And every day they did drills and they simulated this exact thing that is going to happen today with an Orion capsule over and over again, to the point where these divers can essentially now do this in their sleep. But it's a huge feat, and we'll all be watching to see if we can catch the astronauts as they land here in Coronado later tonight.
Steve, this might be a silly question, but there's probably a lot of people here who are not astronauts like you that are watching us, so I feel like it's probably worth asking. Is there anything at this stage that could abort the landing? Could there be some sort of weather pattern that could change, that would close the landing window, or are we past the point of no return here? This Orion capsule is coming home no matter what.
It's coming home no matter what. One of the really cool things about this mission is, remember when they did that translunar injection burn as they zoomed around the Earth a few days ago? That set the whole mission. After that, they haven't really even used their main rocket engine to come back. So this is physics at work. That's going to bring them home.
So that basically, the energy from that was enough to push them right to where they need to go to get here today.
It was a beautiful symphony of physics, mathematics, orbital mechanics, and everything going just right. Because even the guidance system on the spacecraft didn't need a couple of the adjustment burns that were planned. It was that good.
Wow. So, Dr. Rice, Steve just brought up a pretty impressive moment from this mission. What other things stood out to you as huge advancements in terms of what they were trying to accomplish and how it went?
Yeah, this is just, I don't know if I could pick just one thing. There's so many things that have happened in this mission. I think some of my favorites are the things that brought us together, like even some of the silly things, the wake-up songs and Rise, the little zero-G mascot, when they got to talk to the International Space Station, like things like that are just human experiences that we've shared here on Earth while these astronauts have been further away than humans have ever been from Earth. It's just been amazing to see people come together and enjoy this.
Yeah. Tom, I'm told that you have a new update for Mission Control. What can you tell us?
Well, Artemis Commander Reed Weissman, again, he's in the left seat there, just reported that the leak checks are complete and all is good. These orange suits they wear, of course, as you've seen on liftoff and also on return, they're pressurized. And the idea being that if they were to lose pressurization inside the crew module, they could have 6 days worth of oxygen inside those orange suits. They're orange because that's the international color for suits in an emergency of this sort, right? If you ever had one, not saying there will be, but they're wearing these suits just as part of the entire re-entry process, completely normal. Everything is going exactly as it should, and now they've just done a leak check, and that has gone well as well. So they're very much on track here for a 753 entry interface, if you will, hitting the atmosphere at 400,000 feet.
All right, let's bring meteorologist Bill Cairns into the conversation. Bill, obviously weather's one of the few things that they have no control over. What should we expect in terms of how the weather will cooperate with this splashdown?
Yeah, Southern California is doing its thing, Ryan. I mean, they purposely picked this location for a reason. These are the criteria it had to meet for today. They needed the winds to be less than 30 miles per hour, the seas to be less than 6 feet, and that's a tricky one. Clear visibility. Obviously, they need to get the helicopters and the rescues and everyone back to the ship, and they can't have any rain or lightning in the area. So right now, the winds are as light as could be. I mean, it's perfect. Winds are at 6, 9, 12 in Oceanside. And as far as the seas go, we're going to see the splashdown somewhere near this NOAA buoy that's out here off the coast. Right now it's reporting 4-foot seas. That's perfect too. And the cloud cover, the marine layer, was actually pretty thick earlier today, and you can actually see it here. All these white clouds. And notice it's kind of dissipating. So now it's down to partly cloudy skies. So this is near perfect too, Ryan. So check, check, check. Everything is just looking, as far as the things that we can't control, these are looking great.
Okay, good news. Thank you for that, Bill. And Gotti, we're about less than 2 minutes away before we hand this over to our network colleagues to bring this splashdown home. Any final thoughts about what this experience has been like and what you take away from all of it?
I mean, the mission is not over here, right? We still have a few hours before they're safely back here on the ground and embraced by Earth. But Ryan, I don't think we know. I don't think we understand what Artemis II is about to bring. This is just a preview. This is the end of an era, and then after this, the beginning of a whole new way of space travel. So as soon as they land, the thing that I'm looking forward to the most is hearing about what Artemis III and Artemis IV is going to look like. And Ryan, it's not just going to be the SLS going up. We're going to see other spacecraft going up. We're going to see rocket launches happening one after another, HLS, everything that has to happen before we build a moon base in 2 years. It does feel like right now NASA is on an accelerated track, and it is so exciting to see. But again, this mission is not over, so we will wait until they are finally back here on Earth to start talking about that.
Well, I want to thank you all for sharing this with us here on NBC, and that is going to wrap us for this hour. But stay here, because more special coverage of the Artemis II splashdown picks up right now, right here on NBC News Now. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.